that.
Right.
So this is what I would like to see more of.
Yeah, and I was here this summer when the barbecue was hosted. I was proud to stand up and do the Red River jig for everybody. I did go door to door, and when I was going door to door, that's where I met Peggy, and she invited me to come to the community consultation hearing. I was proud to do that and sit here with everyone else as equals, and that's exactly what I'll continue to do when the elected is empty. There's no question about it.
Kevin, crime and safety, the things you talk about, they're dealing with the end product, but we need to do something to address the causes. They didn't just happen. I think poverty is a part of the cause. But, you know, I think it's got to be a two-pronged approach. You've got to get at it before it gets there.
I can tell you, look, I'll tell you my story. I grew up on a bachelor pad on Burroughs Avenue. I understand how social assistance works growing up. My father loved me as much as any father can love somebody, but there were challenges around alcoholism. I was fortunate because I had an ability to shoot a basketball better than most people. So not only was school a safe place for me, but I actually enjoyed school. I was fortunate enough to earn an athletic scholarship that put me through and get myself a university degree. And without all that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you in the position I'm in now. When it comes to dealing with the root causes of poverty and crime, I'm telling you, there isn't many people that know better than I do from personal experience, and that's an absolute fact. I've dedicated my career working with young people to try to overcome those things. I think they're fundamentally important. And when I talk about crime and safety, that's why I always talk about a balanced approach. You know, if the chief of police welcomes more police and says it's going to help to have a police presence, and the community wants that, then we advocate for that. But at the end of the day, that's not the only thing we advocate for. We also advocate for strong, structured programs. If young people are willing to get beat up to join a gang, what's the most powerful value of a gang? Simply to feel like they belong. I understand that. But you can also get a sense of belonging from being on a sports team. You can get a sense of belonging from being on a square dance team. You can get a sense of belonging from being in some other type of enrichment activity. I recognize those things, and that's where I've established my career. And these are the things that I'll bring to the table if I'm elected.
Any other questions? We still have 10 minutes to go.
It's not that they don't have a lot to do, it's just that boredom sets in. Now, I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but I think it would be. You know, I think if every young child, 10, 12, 13 years old, was forced to join the cadets, for instance, I think particularly in the northern communities, that would have a tremendous effect on these young people who are then coming into the big city to get a job to cope with it. And you talk about a sense of belonging. I mean, I know people who have gone through the cadets and through the military. Well, that has got to be one of the, tremendously. There should be a real push up there, as far as I'm concerned, anywhere, for young people to join the cadets or police cadets, anything.
Yeah.
To get a sense of belonging on the good side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. In fact, I currently do suicide prevention work in the North for young people. In fact, the provincial NDP government, for the past, we're in our third year now, for the past 3 years, have invested for the first time recreation money to help young people not commit and try to commit suicide. It's the work I do it up in places like Pungasi and Shimanawa, some of the best work I do. And look, programs like cadets, I think are phenomenal programs that would really help young people, not only with their skill set and education, but also from probably not wanting to do what all of us don't like even to talk about, which is
These young people up there, believe me, they're not stupid. A lot of them are very talented and really know, you know. But they're easily led astray.
Anyone else? Still have some time. Election's on Monday, so last question. It is. Anybody else?
What do you plan on doing regarding the seniors that you spoke about, Kevin?
Well, a lot of the issues I touched on was the cost of living. The pensions haven't kept pace with the cost of living, so we have to look at some type of program to deal with that. the pensions need to be increased and how we actually look at that. I also recognize that, you know, prescription drugs are really very expensive. And how do we come up with a national farmer care program to help? And, you know, like a good example, you see this in the Métis community. You know, they're trying to become First Nations because they get some subsidized for prescription drugs. I mean, there's so many seniors that are struggling with that challenge. To me, it doesn't make sense. You know, if we invest $700 million, we're probably spending $1 trillion a year. $700 million takes every senior above the poverty line. I mean, it's ridiculous that we're even discussing that. You know, $700 million a year takes every senior above the poverty line.
So there's a good place to start, isn't it?
Oh,
When
absolutely.
you see how many billions and trillions of dollars are figured away federally, that's a really good place to start.
And look, I'm running a campaign right now, and I can tell you, all of you, and you can hold me to this. You walk through the doors of our campaign office, you will see an enormous amount of seniors volunteering on our campaign, right? I've done an enormous amount of work around the social aspect of things. So some seniors, you know, aren't just going to bingo, but they can actually interact and get a sense of contribution. And, you know, we started up a group, and Ivan and Berna Spence, they're here, they know this. We started a group to teach stuff around dancing so people can interact. We listen to old time music. They go out, we put on fundraising events. And if you ever come to one of our fundraising events, we raise $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 here in Winnipeg North. And who's it driven by? All seniors. I mean, when you're talking about a value of generosity, there is nobody more generous with their time than seniors in our community. We have to work hard and advocate to make their lives better. There's no question about it.
I have one more question. If you're elected in Canada, how accessible are you going to be to the people of the North, and where are we going to be able to find you?
Well, I got into this because I love, and people know this about me, I love being with people. I work with young people, I'm an avid square dancer, so I'll be a very accessible MP. To the people of Willow Park, like I said, my aunts and uncles, my family live here. I've been in Berna Spence, so I'm always here. I'm here about twice a week, so you have a lot of access to me. But I think it's, you know, I work with Lloyd actually. He's one of the most prominent MPs. I asked him, what was one of the things that are most important in terms of being a successful MP? He said, you know what he told me? He says, Kevin, the most important thing you can be is accessible. The more people that phone you, and the more phone calls you return, the more people you meet, the more access people have to the position of the MP, the stronger you're going to be as an MP. And I believe that, right? So, yeah.
A few minutes left. Anybody who hasn't asked a question yet? Two people just came in. Would you? I want to put you on the spot. No. That's what I do sometimes, but
We know he's right, man.
maybe I'll ask a question. I'm a government relations coordinator at Procedure of Canada. We've been calling for an accountability framework for federal housing spending. Right now, there isn't any way to measure the reductions in core housing. There's no way to, there's no strings attached to federal housing transfers to the provinces. So for a province like Manitoba or any other province that receives federal funding, we're saying we need an accountability framework to lower the, to measure reductions, to lower core housing need, which is a household with core housing needs paying more than 50% of core tax income. How would you help reduce the number of Canadians, which is 1.5 million Canadian households, paying more than they can afford for their housing bill?
Well, first, you should know that I agree with that. That I know that you know that there isn't enough accountability or transparency on the efficiency of how these dollars are spent. I'm very glad to say that you know that the provincial NDP government now has a minister of housing, Carrie Irvin-Ross, who I've worked very closely with when she was the Minister of Healthy Living. In fact, that was the lady I worked with to deal with suicides in the north. So her and the Minister of Housing gives us the ability to not only advocate and to look at the information at the federal level, but to work in partnership with the province. And look, any good policy is going to be built with levels of government working together with nonprofit groups like co-op housing and coming up with something reasonable that makes sense.
Because right now, as you know, the next, we're waiting for the federal government to announce the next